Today, we got the announcement of a political house cleaning at the Federal Reserve Bank, thanks to opposition research that is going to force out the president of the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston, citing health reasons, but not really health reasons. That's just a convenient excuse to get him out. And also the president of the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas. These guys were doing insider trading on stocks. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell was caught doing insider trading on municipal bonds of at least 1.5 million in profits. I've also seen estimates of at least 5 million. Who knows the real number? We probably will never know the real number. The Fed is claiming that they're going to do some type of ethics investigation. Yeah, freaking right. Here in the DC metro area, as I've talked about in past videos, this is how a lot of the white-collar criminals, the people with law degrees, the revolving door between large corporations and DC, between Wall Street and DC, between Big Pharma and DC, between the military-industrial complex and DC. This is how a lot of people in the DC metro area go from very little net worth of $100,000 or $200,000 in their savings when they're in their 40s or 50s to $5 or $10 million very, very quickly. It is insider trading on stock tips from people inside government agencies. It is from people in Congress and congressional committees and their aides. Information is routinely traded here, and almost no one goes to prison for insider trading. This is how a lot of people here in the area either get rich quick or get richer. So since July, we've seen a lot of information come out. Nancy Pelosi and her family were trading on stock options as well, based on information she was getting inside her congressional committee hearings. But those Washington Capitals season tickets, which are quite expensive here in the DC area, that Jerome Powell loves, that was talked about in a 60-minute special, are not going to pay for themselves. So why was this done with leaking the information about the Dallas Federal Reserve Bank president? It is because the Democrats in Congress, the DNC, that have a slight majority in Congress, they want more doves on board that are similar in political philosophy and also in economics backgrounds, similar to Janet Yellen. Janet Yellen is a labor economist. She believes in the Phillips curve, and she believes that stagflation is not possible. There are a lot of PhD economists that ignore the stagflation that occurred in the 1970s. They still believe in the Phillips curve. They still believe that high inflation and high unemployment are not possible. That stagflation is not possible. So the goal is to bring on even more doves with similar political philosophies and similar economics backgrounds, or I would say brainwashing, to Lael Brainerd, similar to Janet Yellen, rather than the Fed governors who were corrupt. And this is political opposition research, which means that only certain people were exposed. And as I've talked about in the past, both political parties, even the politicians and bureaucrats who talk about how much they hate capitalism, they're trading on inside information on stocks. They're moving unbidded government contracts to special interest group companies or green energy companies that family and friends are in the board of directors of to make themselves and their families and friends richer. This is how corrupt the entire system is. So by getting more dovish Fed governors in place, this will allow politicians to more easily pass things like the Green New Deal because the Fed will be willing to finance more of it. But for DC, the more spending means more wealth individually for lots of people here in the DC metro area. Everyone has their hand out. This is why the size of these bills, when they should be small and efficient, these bills are thousands of pages, and they have things in there, spending items in there, that have absolutely nothing to do with the supposed goals of the bill. So there's going to be millions and billions worth of spending hidden inside all of these bills, whether it's a new infrastructure bill or the Green New Deal or whatever other spending bill that DC decides to come up with. Maybe it's a new affordable housing bill. And there's going to be many, many billions, if not trillions, of waste, fraud, corruption, and abuse. And that currency will be funneled to special interest groups and corporations and in lobbyists and politicians and bureaucrats and employees of them and friends and family members and government agency employees who are aware of this inside information, they're all going to profit from it. So these champagne socialist hypocrites that claim that they hate capitalism, they're making tons of money on insider information on stocks and real estate deals. That's how messed up the system is. Now, Peter Schweitzer put out a book in the last couple years called Throw Them All Out, and he documented a good amount of this from both political parties. If you want to read the book, it's available on Amazon and also Audible audiobook. And he cites a bunch of different disclosures of insider trading for both political parties in Congress, Republicans and Democrats. When the book came out, Democrats trashed the book, calling it one-sided, slandering the author, attacking his credibility. But if you care about the truth is that here in the Washington, D.C. metro area, there are tons of people getting rich or richer off the corruption. And a lot of these people are absolutely enormous hypocrites, claiming how they hate capitalism, and yet they're making millions of dollars on a stock trade with inside information. And they're doing it frequently. Or they're moving unbid government contracts from different government agencies where a family or friend is on the board of directors. And then the kickback is stock options and all these other perks. Now, there's supposed to be financial disclosure forms, but these things are a joke because most of the people here in the DC metro area are white-collar criminals with law degrees. They know their way around the law, and unfortunately, most importantly, they think that they're above the law. So corruption here in DC, it has gotten worse and worse and worse in the 20-plus years that I've been here. And it just gets worse every time there's a new QE program, every time the Fed expands its balance sheet, and every time Congress or the White House announces a new spending program. So I think that Jerome Powell is on his way out. I think his Fed term expires in February, but I would not be shocked to see if he resigns sooner than that, because he is also involved in this insider trading scandal with his municipal bond purchases. He padded himself at least an extra $1.5 million buying municipal bonds that the Fed was going to buy ahead of time. I've seen estimates again higher than that, so we'll see what happens. But the Fed is claiming that they're going to do an ethics investigation. The truth is that the Fed enables all of this corruption, and they've made it pervasive throughout all of DC, because if there was not quantitative easing programs and almost unlimited military industrial complex spending and federal government spending, I don't think there would be anywhere near this amount of corruption. For this much corruption to occur, there has to be trillions and trillions and trillions of currency and credit creation every couple years. Finally, if you like content like this and want to help keep content like this free so it doesn't all end up behind a paywall, there are over 180 articles, charts, and audio podcasts exclusive for patrons, all for the cost of a Starbucks cup of coffee, only $5 a month. And in just the last 15 or so weeks, there are 29 new articles out on a lot of interesting topics about global macro companies and sectors, on gold mining, silver mining, uranium. I will hopefully get out my new uranium piece in the next couple days. For patrons, I have not been feeling the best the last couple days. I did a very long George Gammon interview of over an hour, and I had a 5 or 6 hour migraine after that. So I'm doing the best I can. I took a couple days off. So if I could wrap up this short little video very quickly, the more currency and credit that the Fed creates, the more spending that Congress and the White House announce, the more corruption there's going to be with the Cantillon effect here in the DC metro area. Corporations, Wall Street, they're going to waste lots. And the people here in DC, the parasites, the white-collar criminals here in the District of Criminals, white-collar criminals with law degrees, they're going to benefit from it with insider trading on stocks and real estate and other asset classes. A lot of people here in the DC metro area have been buying Bitcoin for many, many years. They buy Bitcoin every time the price is smashed. I've seen them admit this in person in speeches at the DC Blockchain Summit every year. People high up in the US Treasury Department, people high up at the Securities and Exchange Commission, people high up at the CFTC. Who knows if these people, these higher ups, are actually paying a lot of taxes or not? I suspect that they aren't, similar to a lot of other corrupt governments. But corruption is a problem globally. It has grown here in the US the more currency and credit creation there has been. And until the world reserve currency is taken away from the US, there will be more and more corruption. Capitalism will be blamed while people here in the DC metro area get rich quick or get richer.